My name is Randy Trevino. I'm a frontline community member. I live in Southeast Houston. This is where I grew up. This is where my family still is. My work pretty much revolves around the experiences my family has had and how that has been impacted by pollution and by abuse by industry. In my work, I advocate for people in my community. I advocate for people who probably have had a lot less opportunities than I have. Some people only speak Spanish. Usually the people who are most environmentally vulnerable are those that are most likely to also only speak Spanish. And perhaps maybe also not be, US citizens or US residents. Actually, the ship channel, like certain neighborhoods, are known to be landing spots for immigrants. I mean, that's where I landed. I landed in East End with my mom back in 1990 something. By the time I'm 7, I live close to the refineries, and so I'm exposed to seeing now these massive, I'm already, have experience with machineries and being around industrial places, but now this blows that out of the water, right? Smog coming out of those 18-wheelers is nothing compared to the giant clouds coming out of the refineries and other types of chemical plants down at the ship channel. And at the time, I didn't realize that that's what was harming me potentially, right? The last 2 weeks almost, I've been having allergy attacks. I'm having inflammation. My mom is having inflammation. She was dizzy yesterday. This is our daily life. This is how we live.
Arandi's complicated history with industry and environmental health fostered her passion to help others.
I'm trying to help uplift the voice of people who haven't always thought they could have a seat at the table, because the community's knowledge is valuable. The community's knowledge is important and necessary to have in these conversations. A lot of people speak Spanish here. A lot of times those stories, the stories that impact them, the stories that provide the information that they could use to, arm themselves, to have more knowledge, to be able to fight back if need be, right? They're not getting it because it's not being put out there in Spanish. At least not at the same rate, right? Not even close. And so this is also like part of the reason for the Raíces Collaborative is to provide more platforms and more avenues and more tools for people.
Ojalá que mucha gente se una a ese grupo y que mucha gente se interese. Si no se quiere unir, de perdida que hable.
The process of Spanish speakers being left out of conversations related to environmental health issues that these two women talk about is known as language isolation. Trevino's story, unfortunately, is not unique. From pesticide dangers in California to petrochemical emissions in Texas, minority communities are more likely to suffer from environmental health issues due to disproportionate exposure and socioeconomic inequality. And they're more likely to experience language barriers and assessing information about their environment and their health. A new study led by Yoshira Ornelas Van Horn, an assistant professor in the Department of Environmental Health Sciences at Columbia University, explains how this can happen.
So really began this research because I wanted to call attention to the lack of Spanish available materials, particularly around environmental health issues. And the process originally entailed identifying institutions who primarily focus on environmental health issues, and then going through the information they had available on their websites and extracting any type of information that they had, not just in Spanish, but like in other languages. And we ended up finding out that only 4 out of the 45 institutions that primarily focus on environmental health issues had any materials, whether infographics or other forms available in non-English. That language is one of those things that connects people, but also gives them access to resources. And so having this information available to them in their preferred language is important, particularly for them to do self-advocating in regards to public health.
Mayela Bustos, Randy's mother, is a perfect example of this.
No te voy a decir que hablo el inglés con demasiada fluidez. Sé que lo puedo hablar, pero cuando tengo la oportunidad de hablar en español, pues yo prefiero hablar en español. Es mi lengua. Pues mis preocupaciones ahorita son los problemas de salud que nos han acarreado tanto a mí como a mi hija, como a mi nieta, como a mi otra hija. O sea, sí, eso es, los problemas de salud que se han empeorado. Porque muchas veces se sienten que son invisibles. Por eso es importante que hablen para que dejemos de ser invisibles.
Ornelas Van Horn and her colleagues offer some solutions.
So there's quite a few steps, but I'll narrow it down to one of them is making sure that institutions are investing resources, particularly when it comes to having professional translators on board to be able to work with translating this information. And then the other is forming partnerships with Spanish outlets that then can have this information available.
Resources for individuals are also available on the local and national levels. Houston residents can reach out to organizations like Tejas that have long worked towards language justice. At a national level, Ecomadres offers information about air pollution and legislation. Both resources offer information in Spanish. For EHN, I'm Kimmy Farrell.